Well, good evening, everybody. How are you doing? I'm here with my lovely wife, Stephanie. Stephanie, how you feeling about this?
Fine.
You feeling fine? Good, good. So, we're if you get a chance, go ahead and share this broadcast with somebody else. We're talking about homeschooling, virtual learning tonight. Just want to help a few families. We've been doing it for a while now, and we're just going to have an informal, impromptu discussion. We decided to do this a couple of days ago. First time we've ever been on camera together. So, if you get a chance, go ahead and share this broadcast with somebody. Good evening, Taiwana. How you doing? For those of y'all who are joining in,
Hey, Ty.
hey, Sister Waynette James, how you doing? Yeah, go ahead and tell folks that we're
Jeanette.
tuning in tonight. So, let me see. How should we start this discussion? Let's go ahead and start back to when we decided to homeschool. You want to walk back through that story? Let's make sure I tell it the right way.
It was when I just thought that just looking at Stephen and Thomas and just it's almost like a mother's intuition that they were going to learn differently uh, than because they were similar to you as far as
Mm-hmm.
their creativity, as far as their just how they interacted, how they thought things through. And at the time, Thomas was pretty hyper. And so I was concerned about how they would be treated in school.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, it's like a mother cub. And you just know that something, we just needed to do something different. And so that's when I approached you, remember, and asked you, what did you think of it? And uh, you weren't uh it's not like you were close, you were very open-minded, I should say that. Like, let's do the research, let's see what's going on, uh let's see how this would work. And when I we discussed, and it was almost like, okay, let's do this, let's see how the road will end. Okay, let's just do this 1 year at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And this has now been what, 11 years doing this, and it's been a great journey, a great ride.
Well, you've done a good job.
Thank
For a lot of 99% of the learning has come from you, and and 99% of the support hopefully has come from me,
you.
and
100%. We are talking about
100%.
99.
Well, I'm just gonna leave 1% open just in case I did something wrong,
No, don't
but
don't sell yourself short. 100%.
but yeah. So it takes two to homeschool. We decided to homeschool. We wanted our children to learn, everything we wanted to impart into them. Our son Thomas was diagnosed with autism at the time, and we didn't want him to. As a teacher, I've been teaching now for about 20 years. I know how this goes with kids with autism, and depends on how they are on the spectrum. How they're treated depends on what school they go to, what school system they're in, how things really go. So he was a major reason why we decided to homeschool, and of course our youngest son Steven, they both have done really well
Older, babe.
homeschooling. Say what?
He's
I,
our
s-
older.
I said younger. Okay, my older son Steven, yeah. So they both have done very well homeschooling, and let's talk about some of the kickback when we told people that we were going to homeschool.
There was some positive and some negative.
Hmm.
You know, we had the typical questions of, are they going to be isolated? Are they going to be socialized? Are they going to be kept apart from other kids? And will they be on the same level as other kids in the traditional schools?
Hmm.
And they were tested. Some people asked them to read something for them, or asked them to do a math question. So, there were times, and of course, that made me angry, but it also made me more determined uh, that this was the decision, and knowing that this was the best decision for them. And so That, it was. And I think every homeschool parent or family goes through the same thing because it's not the norm. It's far from the norm. And anytime you do something different from the status quo, you're going to be scrutinized, you're going to be tested, you're going to be questioned. But you keep on going, and anybody that's homeschooling out there and you think it's best for your child, then there's nothing that anyone can say or do that should deter you otherwise.
Right. And we now, because of the pandemic, a lot of kids are home virtual learning. Parents are trying to adjust,
Mhm.
trying to assist their students in virtual learning. Talk about the differences between virtual learning and homeschooling.
Well, homeschooling is a totally different thing because as a parent, as a guardian, you are completely responsible for the education of your child.
Mm.
Okay. Virtual learning, or what's called distance learning, is when basically the student is away from the teacher. You are physically apart from the teacher. So, but you can include distance learning in your homeschooling, which is what I do. I use this service called OutSchool for some of the classes for both of my children. They're both taking a couple of distance learning courses this year for subjects that I really didn't want to learn or didn't want to teach, so to speak, because I was going to be doing other things, or I just want them to be able to learn from other people, other subject matter experts. Um, so you can use that in homeschooling, but when you use, but you can exclusively use distance learning in your homeschooling. That's fine. But you, as the parent, as the guardian, you determine that. Okay, you determine your curriculum. You determine, uh, everything. Who teaches? You do your own research, and you decide. Okay, is this will be good for my son because he is uh, a what do you call it? Auditory learner. This will be good for my daughter because she is a visual learner. So those are things that you keep in mind. And as a homeschooler, a homeschooling family, homeschooling parent, you do it all. So you are the guidance counselor. So as the children get higher in the upper grades, upper levels, high school, you need to be looking at college prep courses. You need to be looking at dual enrollment courses, looking at colleges. You need to do all that, help your children with that. You need to be the lunch lady because you have to cook for them and prepare the meals. You have to be teacher, you have to be principal, you have to be discipline, the discipliner, and all of that. So, and that's a huge responsibility. Okay, and what's going on now with the pandemic? A lot of the responsibility is still on the teacher. And Phil, you know that,
Hmm.
and the curriculum is based on, what the school dictates. So that's not homeschooling. Okay, so let's just make that clear. But you can do both.
Okay, and we're talking about homeschooling and virtual learning tonight. So if you know somebody that could benefit from this, even if they're not watching now, please share this broadcast with them later. It is not only on Facebook, but it's also on my YouTube page. They can go if people are not Facebook people, they can go to YouTube and watch this rebroadcast on my page. Talking about some ways that parents can assist children with in their virtual learning environment. We know now that virtual learning is not homeschooling, but how can parents support their children? And I'm thinking in my mind, as I am virtually teaching 3 classes a day right now, I think one of the big things is that parents can make sure that they are up on technology. So
Mhm.
parents are I have a lot of kids who are struggling with technology, and I believe if the kid is struggling with technology, that means the parents are probably worse. So parents need to be up on technology. They need to understand what their kid needs to learn. They need to work on, if they can, helping to supply some of those needs that need to be met in terms of kids being able to learn online. I think that parents need to. I think they need to wake up and understand that if you have a child, especially middle school or younger need to develop good sleeping habits. And if this, and we're talking about virtual learning, it's different from homeschooling in terms of that. But if you know your child has to learn every day at eight to two, 9 to 4, whatever, you need to. The whole house needs to develop better sleeping habits, so that the child can have proper rest and then proper nutrition. All those things affect the virtual learning environment. This is some of the things that I'm going through right now, teaching high school, and dealing with, just some regular situations. Of course, there are some extenuating situations as well, where kids are dealing with some other things. But just in a, in a household where you have your computer, you have a desk, and the parents are in the home, or even a parent is in the home. Um, just make sure that their environment is conducive for learning, and that you are supportive of them in the midst of that environment. This is the time where a lot of parents are learning about their children, the things about their children that they didn't know. And so this is the time for you to kind of reclaim your role, as a helper in their learning experience. You have anything you want to add to that?
Absolutely. And I think it's so for kids that are not used to it, and it's got to be very, very hard. It's something to get used to. One thing I would say is that kids need a lot of breaks. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for a child to just sit in front of a computer for hours and hours, it can be very frustrating. It can be very it's tiresome. Uh, they need that break to recharge because our brains are like sponges. Uh, the information is only going to go but so far. We
Mm-hmm.
only want to take up but so much information. So uh, they need a break. And I don't know. I know that you're sitting basically in a chair in front of the computer for what 70 minutes, in a row.
80 minutes in a
And
row, yeah.
that's just a lot. So especially for the younger kids, even if they're able to stand up, you move the camera, move the what do you call it, the laptop camera. If you can move it up or move around, maybe the kid needs to sit on the bed, or sit in a chair. Just make things a little bit more easily, because it's from the beginning of the class all the way to the end, unless they make it fun, or it's not going to sink in. It's going to be a little bit hard. So you want to monitor them.
Mm-hmm.
If you can monitor them as they are sitting there in front of the computer learning. And like Phil said, this is the time to check and see how your child learns, okay? Because there are different learning styles. Your child can be a visual learner. So for this, if people who are, or children who are visual learners, this might be a great thing, okay? But for someone who's kinesthetic, means that they need to move around. They may need to use their hands in order to get their thought process going. This could be a very, very struggle. This could be a struggle, I should say, just to sit in front of a computer doing virtual learning. So uh, um, you need to find out how your child learns, and maybe adjust the virtual learning to how they learn. And that will make it a little bit easier, I think, and they'll be able to adjust a little bit better by doing that. There's also auditory learning. So, kids who listen through lectures and discussions, this might be good for them too. But then talk it out with them, talk over their lessons if they are auditory. And these are things that you can understand by through observation, if you know your child very well, or maybe they have a lot of questionnaires online that allow you to find out for yourself. Or you can ask your child, do you like watching the video better, or do you like just talking things out, or do you want to bounce the ball, or do you want to build something in order to learn? So those are the ways. Also, reading and writing learners. Some reading and writing like me, I just like to read and then take notes. Okay, those are learners too. So this is the time to really understand how your child learns.
Yes, thank you for that. And if you have questions you want to ask tonight, we do have some time. So put your questions, list them, and we'll try to answer them for you. Um, we're talking about virtual learning, homeschooling tonight.
Can I say
Um,
this too?
Go ahead.
Is that a lot of kids, and I think many kids, or many of us, learn by doing. So during this time, also take the time to teach your kids by doing things. I was saying in my book that you can teach your child out 7 different subjects during a cooking lesson, teaching your children how to cook. Okay, you can uh, do well with writing, and as far as having them write out the shopping list, or if you want to have them read the recipe. Okay, there's a lot of math in cooking, there's a lot of science in cooking. So find ways, even building things, repairing things, that's engineering, all sorts of different subject matters just by being in the house, because that's where most of us are right now. So make every moment that you have in your child a teaching moment, and it doesn't always have to be from a book. Okay, you are your first child's teacher, so don't forget that. And just because they're school age, you can still teach your child so many different things. That's, as I said, that's just not from a book.
Thank you. Again, if you have questions tonight, go ahead and list them. We'll try to answer them for the time that we have allotted. If you haven't picked up Stephanie Carter's new book yet, it's called Trials and Successes, Effective Teaching and Learning at Home. You can pick it up on Amazon.com or StephanieCarter.net, right? StephanieCarter.net or Amazon.com. Look it up. It's great, a great help, great resource for those of y'all who are homeschooling and or virtual learning. Tawana wants to know, is there a way other than observation that a parent may be able to determine how the child can learn?
They have a lot of learning style questionnaires online. You can look up, you can Google learning style questionnaires, and you'll be able to find some of those. There's quite a few of them to choose from, and you can use that, Ty.
So Google learning style questionnaires.
Learning style questionnaires, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? You all please type them in as we continue this conversation about homeschooling and virtual learning. Our experience: we have 2 children. We are continuing to homeschool, and it's been a ride.
Yes. Ups
Yes,
and downs.
yeah. I think one of the fun parts for me was the fact that they've been able to travel with me.
Hmm.
Us, we've all been able to travel together. Of course, when I travel doing music, we try our best to take everybody, and they learn that way. The trips to Poland, the trips to Denmark, all those trips like that. They learn so much
Well,
from those trips, and
oh,
you find a way to use them as teaching tools.
absolutely. Thomas loves geography,
Mm,
so that is it's it's always so fun with him. And
mm,
for Stephen, he always is interested in the historical aspect of it, of the
right,
places that we go to.
right.
So it's fun traveling with them because I like both,
Mm,
and they do learn. When we went to Auschwitz in Poland, that was it's an extraordinary um, moment, because one of Stephen's favorite subjects is World War II
right.
and the events that surrounded World War II. And so for him to, and I forgot, that's been years. How old was he?
I don't know, but explain to everybody what Auschwitz is, though. Some
Okay,
people may
well,
not know.
it was one of the largest concentration camps during World War II, and it was in Poland. And so we were able to actually go there and visit some of the, where they did the gas chambers. They told the people that they were going to take a shower, and they wound up being in a gas chamber. And they also showed the ovens where they actually burned the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw where they kept the hair was like a mountain of hair where they shaved the heads off the people before they sent them to the gas chambers or sent them to their deaths. And they also had shoes and how they took the gold from the people that they captured.
Right.
So that was a very moving moment, but it was, his historical. So, of course, Stephen, I don't know how much he remembers now, but did we take pictures? Yeah, we took pictures.
Yeah,
So,
we took pictures.
we
Yeah.
just, I go back and show them, this is where you were. This is a place not too many people in the world have visited. So and then of course Thomas, it wasn't so much the historical aspect for him, but it was like where it was. The
Right.
fact yeah. So yeah, and we've been, just as I said, every place that we've been to, whether it was an international travel or in the United States, I tried to make a teaching moment out of it.
Right. If a parent is interested in homeschooling, where and how should they start?
Well, one of the first things you need to do is check with your local uh, jurisdiction and find out what the homeschool laws are, because every county is different, okay, and every state is different. So look and see, you know, um, the homeschool laws to determine things as, will you need to do a portfolio review? And a portfolio is basically how, uh, basically all the information or all the lessons and things that you have done with your children. And sometimes they are reviewed either by an umbrella program, which is a kind of like a church program or a church organization, not always church, but it's an organization that kind of guides homeschool families that are not part of the school, the local school education, Board of Education, but they're a separate entity, but they look at your information to make sure that you have basically done what you said you were going to do, which is teach your children. So whether it's school lessons, whether it's tests, they look at the information and they just glance by it. They're really not supposed to ask, what your child knows or anything like that. They just want to make sure that you are teaching your children and your children aren't just sitting somewhere not doing anything while they're home. But if it's an umbrella organization, or you could also do a portfolio review through your local school board, Board of Education, homeschool office. So that's what you should do to start off, just to make sure that you are in compliance. And some states are more strict than others. So make sure you check that just to get started. And because most of the times you will have to submit something to your local board saying that you intend to homeschool. Okay. So you need to be able to determine that. So I would start with that. But even before you start that, I mean, you can just begin, as I said, by teaching just around the house, just informal things, just to start, and see how, like I said, how your child learns. And the fact that there isn't just one way of homeschooling. There's so many different methods that you can homeschool. Okay, there's school at home, which is more of the traditional, which is basically you get it by curriculum and you basically do everything that the curriculum has. Okay, all the way to homeschooling, which is unschooling. Unschooling, which is more like student-led learning, almost like independent study in college. So there's a wide variety of methods that you can use. So please research those methods, research how your child learns, and make sure you look up your local homeschool laws just to make sure that you will be in compliance when you begin.
You got a lot of stuff in that head. You've been through it. Any tips for online schooling for kindergartners?
Oh,
Any
uh,
tips for online schooling for
for
kindergartners?
kindergarten, it's been so long since I had one.
You may want to think about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? As I said, it depends on how your child is. There's a lot of different online programs, fun programs. There's this one that I used that was called Time for Learning,
Mm.
and that's timeforlearning.com. And they have, it's basically a full curriculum. So they teach math, they teach English, they in a fun way. So it's almost like how you, what was Phil? What was those things that leapfrog?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
we bought 2, 3 leapfrogs.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So some they it's like programs like that.
Hmm.
So it's good to use those types of things to make it fun, keep them entertained. Okay, ooh, keep them entertained. Uh, so I would start with that. You don't want to just sit there and just read a book. Now you can if you want to. If your child is like that, they would like if they're want to write, if they're early, if you want them to start writing, we use little books like that. Also, just start reading to them, reading a lot until they seem like they want to read. So I would begin with that, but make it fun. And I mean, I even now, even Steven's in high school and Thomas is about to be in high school, they still want things to be fun. They're boys. So there's a lot of also game-based learning out there too. Everything doesn't have to be reading. I used to use and still do use a lot of game-based learning. Kahoot.com is excellent too. That's a lot of fun for kids. Um, uh, this is just do your research. I mean, look up games, look up homeschooling for kindergartners. As I said, just make it fun. Make education fun. You're there to guide them, but you can make it fun too.
In fact, that question came from Reverend Kim and Pastor Gerald.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful.
I hope y'all are helped by this. I hope this helps you
Yes, I
if you're
hope.
dealing with a kindergarten. We definitely praying for you. I put signs out there on the swing set.
Oh, one more thing too.
What?
Uh, you know, Another thing about homeschooling that I think is untruth is that you have to be home. That's the furthest from the truth. We do a lot of nature walks. Get out if you can. You can learn so much, and you can teach, and your child can learn so much just by staying out in nature. I mean, there's so much science, there's so much geography, there's so much math just by being outside or taking a walk or driving. I used to do this thing in the car called Color of the Day. And what was the color of the day and something else? Oh, I forgot what the other thing was. But anyway, so what I would do is we'll pick a color of the day. And so we would be driving. And like, for instance, the color of the day is green. Okay, so we would pick on what's green. So they would pick trees. Okay, so that would be a moment for science. Why are the trees green? Okay, because of chlorophyll. Well, what is chlorophyll? So those sort of things. You don't have to always be home. So being for a kindergartner, if they like to drive around, if they like to walk, you can make those moments teacher moments too. That makes it a lot of fun.
Do students who are homeschooled have an opportunity to do extracurricular activities such as prom, choirs, band, etc.?
Absolutely. And in fact, homeschoolers do a lot of extracurricular activities because our schedules are so flexible. Okay. My sons and I do a lot. We spend a lot of times in the library. They also did until the
Mm.
pandemic, sports. Um, they have, if you check your local libraries or check your local parks and recreation, see if they have classes for homeschoolers. At least in our area in Maryland, that is the case. They have the library. They had a homeschool chess club at the local was it College of Southern Maryland. They have homeschool swim classes during the day. A lot of classes that are geared to homeschoolers are during the day because of the flexibility that we have in our schedule to maneuver things, to move things around. So as far as sports, you can check and see if any local schools, private schools need or ask for homeschoolers because sometimes they don't have enough. Maybe they don't have enough kids on for the team sometimes, or they need alternates. Okay, and some of them allow homeschoolers. Also, local homeschool co-ops have homeschool leagues. So there's just so much you can do uh, for your time as a homeschooler.
Again, if you'd like to, more information, or you need another resource to help you in your homeschooling or virtual learning environment, you can pick up my wife's book, Trials and Successes: Effective Teaching and Learning at Home. And you can get it at Amazon.com or StephanieCarter.net. We won't be on here too much longer, but I hope this has helped a lot of people, as we will come on periodically and just have impromptu discussions. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. If not on this,
So
if
let
not
me
on
ask you a question.
tonight, hold on a second. If not tonight, then just inbox me and we'll help you. Go ahead.
Okay, so how does it feel for you as a homeschool dad?
Well, when you got Stephanie Carter at the helm, um,
Come on now.
it probably feels much better than maybe another situation. I don't know. It feels good at home. I'm your support. I'm their support. Sometimes I'm the mediator, and I have no problem with that. I love that role. I love going to you, having conversations with you. I love going to them, having conversations with them, because I have to do that so much in the public school environment with between kids, and because I teach high school. Now that at least one of my children is in high school now,
Mhm.
um, you know, it's a no-brainer for me just in terms of how to relate, what they're thinking about, what's going on, just having regular conversations and being dad, but still having regular conversations and knowing this is what the typical teenager is going through in their head and just how to combat it. So, also as a teacher, I understand your frustration, and I know some of the things I've had to do over the years that I'm able to lend my expertise to. But when I say you're doing a fine job and have done a fine job, I couldn't, as a teacher, I could not have done what you're doing right now. And I think that teachers, hearing that from another teacher, you need to know if you teach in public school, it is not the same as teaching at home. It
Oh,
is not the same as homeschooling. It's a whole nother ball game. And many of us couldn't do it. One, because we're used to following someone else's program. And two, teaching our own children can sometimes be more challenging than teaching other people's children. So those
oh,
are big.
homeschooling isn't easy now.
You're right.
That's the furthest from the truth as well. It's not easy, and we know, we've had conversations. I've had when I've had a rough day
Hmm.
and do what they were supposed to, excuse me, and they were supposed to do, complaining or whatever, or seem like they just not getting it. And I feel like sometimes it's something wrong with what I'm doing, so I feel like maybe I'm failing, and you're there to support me and to encourage me to keep going and to give me some pointers. So, I appreciate that. I don't think I could do what you're doing. So I always have much respect for teachers that are teaching other kids because that's not easy either.
No, it's not. Parents and administrators and all that goes into that makes it even tougher than just teaching a kid and trying to reach a kid. You have to reach a kid before you can teach a kid, and that can be challenging as well. How does it work when a homeschooler is interested in college?
Okay, well, it depends on um, uh, the age, first of all. If you are, one of the things that is an advantage for homeschoolers as far as college is concerned is that you can incorporate college prep courses in your curriculum. And homeschoolers nowadays are starting college prep as early as fifth grade. And and that is to help them because homeschoolers need to take a college entrance course, either the SAT or the ACT or the new CLT that they have out there that I think that stands for Classic Learning Test, because they, in a way are not on the, I wouldn't say not on the same level academically, but there's really no other way to judge homeschoolers and compare to their cohorts that are in traditional schools. So a lot of homeschoolers start college prep very early. I'm doing college prep with my boys right now. We started doing college prep over the summer, and they're in 10th and 8th grade. But it's important for me to make sure that they start early, and that's to take any standardized test. Another advantage for homeschooling is that a lot of homeschoolers do the dual enrollment. Okay, dual enrollment is when you're taking college classes at the same time that you are, in high school. And that a lot of homeschoolers are able to do because of the flexibility in the schedule. So that is a way for homeschoolers to get used to college level courses. There's also college level courses online that homeschoolers take as well. So your homeschool child can prepare and can be very successful in college. There's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of college graduates that are former homeschoolers. And what's happening now is that a lot of the colleges are kind of changing their admissions a little bit for homeschoolers because they realize that homeschoolers have such a unique education. So they look at the ACT scores and SAT, the standardized college entrance test scores, but they also look at extracurricular activities because a lot of homeschoolers are involved in those things. And so it's important for you as a parent to start early more than anything else. If they're already in high school, you just have to get the ball rolling a little faster. But it is possible. I definitely plan for my two boys to be going to college. I mean, that's unless something drastically happens, the Lord says something else. But that is the plan for us, and I believe that they will be prepared.
Right. The answer to your last question about scholarships to Taiwan, yes, absolutely. That question is the answer to that is yes.
What was
They
that?
they will be able to apply for scholarships, just like
Oh yeah.
traditional school
Oh
students.
yeah.
Yeah.
I started looking at that like a couple years ago. I already have a book with a list of the scholarships, the programs. There's so many different programs out here nowadays for homeschoolers. But not only that, get them involved in activities that not too many other kids are involved in. Like for instance, I had my boy Thomas, Stephen, doing fencing. There's fencing scholarships out there, chess scholarships. I had both of them playing chess. So look for different activities that is off the beaten path that your child can be eligible for, lacrosse or something like that, that can get them, in a better position to be accepted in a college.
Great. Jeffrey Corey wants to know, uh, how is the curriculum for homeschool compared to the brick and mortar school? I guess to regular school. What's the comparison in curriculum?
Well, it depends on the curriculum. Once again, there are different methods to homeschooling. So if you're talking about a school at home method, which I think a lot of people think that homeschooling is, uh, I don't know because I don't know what the curriculum is for. I mean, you can kind of compare, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but um, it's it's how you want it basically because there are curriculums, as I said, for school at home where they have the textbooks and they have the tests, they have the quizzes, they have the labs, if it's science, they have all that in a package deal. But then you have some methods, like I think it's the Montessori or the Waldorf method, which they don't have textbooks until middle school, so a lot of it is going outside, learning that way. So, Jeff, to answer your question, it depends on the method and it depends on the way you teach your child, but it's not just strictly traditional. There's so many different ways of doing it. And also, it's called eclectic when you include all of them. Like, for instance, for me, right now, I do we're doing chemistry. Okay, so I'm doing chemistry with a lab. I'm doing a curriculum for that. But something like his math, I'm doing what's called Life of Fred. Life of Fred is a book that teaches math from kindergarten all the way up to calculus, and it's the story of a 5-year-old a 5-year-old college professor
Hmm.
at a functional Kansas university. That is not a traditional math curriculum, okay? But that works great for my son Stephen because he likes stories and he's conceptual. He processes math better through that. While my youngest son Stephen, I mean Thomas, I'm sounding like you, Phil. Youngest son Thomas, he thinks more mechanical. So he does things more in the traditional math. So I have a traditional math curriculum for him. So you have to tailor your child's education to how they learn. So I hope that answers your question, but you have to tailor it to that. But there's so many different curriculums, if you want to call it curriculums, okay, out there. But you don't have to use a curriculum if you don't want to.
Okay. We have 5 more minutes. Are there any tax benefits to homeschooling?
No. In fact, homeschooling is actually probably more expensive because you are basically covering all of the costs that the school would usually cover. Okay, so if you want to do a lot of field trips, uh, which we do, I teach a lot through our field trips to museums, and thank God that we live in the Washington D.C. area. We go to the Smithsonian, which all of them are free. Okay, and we stay in the museums, we stay in the
Mm.
libraries. Okay, you have to pay for your lunches. You have to pay for the curriculums. And like Jeffrey was asking about the curriculums, well, if you decide to do a stay at home, which I mean, school at home, which is a full curriculum, that can range up to two, three, $400 a curriculum, depending on what you use. If you decide to do a co-op, which is, and this takes care of the socialization question too. Okay, co-ops are groups that homeschoolers come and meet together, take classes twice, three, maybe four times a week. They go there and they socialize. As I said, they take classes with other homeschoolers. Okay, so they're socialized that way. But some co-ops like that cost money as well because they pay for the teachers who teach as well as the rental of the facility and things like that. So no, there are no tax benefits. Homeschooling can be quite expensive. So that's something that people need to be aware of if they decide to take this journey.
Yeah, if you decide to take this journey, this is a great resource for you. Again, I mentioned my wife's book, Effective Leading, Trials and Successes, Effective Teaching and Learning at Home. You can get it at stephaniecarter.net or Amazon.com. Last question. Do you have a preference on the homeschooling style? You have a homeschooling style preference?
No, I've tried them all, and actually, uh, it depended on the season. The season depended on how they felt. I've done the classic style. I've done the school at home. In fact, that was the first thing I did because, as a new homeschooler, that's what I thought that everyone did, which just sat at the table and went through the books and did the quizzes. But that didn't really work for my sons. So I had to find another way. So I don't have a preference. And you shouldn't either. It should be based on what your child is more comfortable with and what you're more comfortable with, but particularly the child because they're the ones that have to learn. But no, I don't have a preference. I do it all. And I said I also might do it depending on the subject too. I'm very, very flexible. I want that because I need to keep my sanity as well, because you can lose your sanity real fast if you think that if you want to stick to one thing, it can be very, very hard. And you can listen to everybody's advice, and it's good to listen to advice. But when it comes to your family and your children, you make that decision.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing I will let anyone know tonight. You can listen to anything I say, and I hope you do. But if it doesn't fit your child, then don't do it. Figure out what works best for your child. And then sometimes they'll tell you too. I always get advice from my boys. I say, okay, well, did you like that class? Did you like that co-op this year? They might say, yeah, I like it, or no, let's do something else. Because they're growing up, they're maturing, they're telling me what works best for them. And I appreciate that. And I try to, but I try to guide them too, because that's what you want to do as a parent, as a teacher. You want to guide them to where they're supposed to be and
Well,
understand their gifts too, because each child has a gift. So, yeah.
well, I think we've given a lot of people some things to chew on, some things to pursue. Um, the last thing she said was really the difference between um, being in a school environment and homeschooling. You can switch up if things are not working. In a school environment, you can't do that. There is a state standard curriculum, and sometimes that state curriculum is sponsored by the federal government, depending on how the funding is going, and that trickles down to each school, trickles down to the teachers, trickles down to the students. So at
Can
home,
I say this one thing too?
go ahead.
Is that we also, one of the reasons why too we decided to homeschool is that we wanted our children to have more of an Afrocentric education, which means we wanted our boys to know a lot about the history of Africa, a
Mm-hmm.
lot about the history of African Americans in this country as
Mm-hmm.
well as around the world, that is not taught too much in the traditional setting. And that was very, very important for us. So that's another reason, talking about the flexibility of teaching what you want your child to know. Okay, so and I also based my curriculum on history too, because I think it's just very, very important for children to know history and know that there's nothing new under the sun. Okay, but also to give them perspective on what's happening now and why things happen the way they do.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Everyone, hopefully you've gotten a lot out of this. If you decide to homeschool your children, or if you are currently homeschooling your children, welcome to the journey, and we hope this really helps you. We want you to know that you'll probably have an easier time than we had, because now that everybody's at home, it's a much more accepted decision versus back in the day when we were kind of tried in the fire just a little bit, not too much, but a little enough to get under your skin. If you decide to homeschool your children, just know that, if it doesn't work out, you can send them back to school. But if it does work out, just enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride. It's going to have ups and downs, but ultimately, if you stick with it, if you keep learning, if you keep striving, things will work out for you, and you'll discover a whole new world of people that you never even knew about. And wherever you live, the homeschool parents and children, they're there. You just can't see them, but
We're
you will.
all
But
everywhere. We
but
are
you will learn who they are once you enter into that environment. You'll learn all the different opportunities that are given to homeschoolers that are not even known to people who go to regular school. But you wouldn't know that unless you're in that environment. So thank you all so much. Thank you, my dear. This has been wonderful, and we will do this again. Y'all have a blessed evening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.